If you would have told me when I was in my 20s and 30s that there were more things to train for in the gym than size and strength, I not only would have laughed at you, I probably would have made fun of you for not being very big or very strong. I would have made a very good YouTube commenter back then, right? But unfortunately, as we get older, it becomes more and more apparent that there are more things to train for when we are in our garage gyms than just size and strength. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the GymCrafter podcast. Welcome back to the GymCrafter podcast, everybody. My name is Tim. I am the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks like you and I build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love. And welcome back to part 2 of building a home gym for old farts, right? So we talked about the last episode. If you haven't heard it, we talked about 3 aspects of building your home gym to help with injury prevention, training around injury, things like that, mobility and recovery, some other tips and tricks. So if you haven't heard that episode, go back and check that out. There's a lot of stuff in there about building out your home gym for people as they get older, as you get in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. And today's topic is going to be its own thing because it's a big topic, but it really applies to those of us who are training in our advanced years, I guess you would call it, right? So people who are, again, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Now, that doesn't mean this doesn't count for people who are in their 20s and 30s. There's valuable information in here for everybody. But the reason that what I'm going to talk about today becomes more important as we get older and older is that there's an axiom that I like to talk about a lot, and I tell this to my clients a lot, and it's really, really important to understand. The difference between a 20-year-old who trains and a 20-year-old who doesn't train is not that much. There's not a huge difference there. The difference between a 50-year-old who trains and a 50-year-old who doesn't train is pretty big. And as we get older, that delta gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And crossing that delta from somebody who doesn't train to somebody who does gets harder and harder and harder. And one of the things that becomes important as we age is to understand that we're not just training for what we're doing this weekend, right? I'm not just training so that I can look good in a shirt this weekend when I go out to the bars. I did that when I was in my 20s and 30s. Now, what I'm training for is that so that in 20 years, I can still put a carry-on in the overhead bin in the airplane by myself. I'm training for in 20 years, I can still take all of the groceries out of the car in one trip and bring them inside, like a man is supposed to do. I am training for the things that I want to be able to do when I'm older, and what you need to realize is that as that delta grows, you have less and less of an opportunity to fix those issues the older you get. So as we look at building our home gyms, as we look at training in our home gyms, it's really important that we start doing things in our garage gym, that we start buying equipment in our garage gym, so that we start using the equipment in our garage gym in a manner that helps us age well and prepares us for life down the road. Because you don't want to be the 60-year-old who needs a walker. You don't want to be the 70-year-old who can't get jelly off the top shelf in the kitchen. You don't want to be the person who falls and breaks their hip and dies because they're frail, right? You want to have good bone density. You want to have good muscle mass. And in order for us to do that, in order for us to train for that specific thing, there's more than just size and strength that we train for in the gym. Now, the good news is size and strength are both important. We're going to talk about 7 things that you need to train for in your gym as we get older. And 2 of those are size and strength. So those are still important. I'm not saying not to train for those things. What we're going to talk about is how to set up our gym to train for the other things, not only in how we approach our training, but also in how we build and set up our gym. Now, this particular topic is kind of going to dovetail, and I mentioned this in my last episode, and I mentioned it before, that I'm going to be starting a second channel that kind of chronicles my journey from kind of out of shape right now. Now, as far as other 50-year-olds, I'm 54, I'm in pretty darn good shape. I'm in better shape than most of the people I know my age. So I'm not saying that I'm in bad shape. But when I look at where I want to be when I'm older, I am way off the mark right now. And I think that a lot of us, if we take an objective look at ourselves, especially if you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, that while we like to think we're in good shape, like me, I have a home gym YouTube channel for a living, right? I work out every day. I can bench 225, which yes, is less than a lot of people, but it's more than a lot of guys my age, and it's a marker that I'm really happy with. So it's not that I'm in bad shape. I'm kind of in bad shape. We'll talk about that later in the episode. But anyway, I'm starting a second channel so that I can take you guys along on that journey and show you what I do as a 54-year-old to get out of that hole, to address the health markers that we're going to talk about in this episode, and to get healthier here in my home gym. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I want to start with the 7 areas that we need to be training for. And I talked about one in the last episode, not really training for it, and that is injury prevention. No matter what I talk about today, no matter what we address today in this episode or in the last episode or what you do in your gym, if you're injured, none of it matters. So make sure and go back and listen to that last episode. I spent a lot of time talking about how to build your gym out and avoid injury, some different approaches you can take to avoid injury, and that's going to be important. But that leaves 6 areas that we want to train for, and not only 6 areas that we want to train for, but I see a lot of people today talking about, well, at least I don't do nothing, right? Especially as you get older. And my parents are a great example of this. Mom, you need to be walking every day. Well, we went for a walk this weekend. Great. That's not every day, right? And some of you may have parents like this. And it's like, we don't want to just do more than nothing, right? We need to be doing a minimum level of work in each of these 6 areas. And when you look at what these 6 areas are, what we should be training for as we get older, and also what the minimum effective doses are, all of a sudden you start going, oh, wow, there's probably a lot more to this than I originally thought. It requires a big change in your training. Again, why I'm doing the other channel to help people navigate this. But let's talk about those 6 areas. And the first one, which we all love, is cardio. And cardio, it doesn't have to be running, it doesn't have to be jogging, it doesn't have to be road biking. It can just be walking at a good pace. It can be low intensity, steady state cardio. But we need to be doing cardio, and we need to be doing about 150 minutes a week in cardio. That's 2.5 hours of cardio a week. So while a lot of people go, oh yeah, I go for a run on the weekends. Great. That's a half hour. That's 45 minutes. Where's the other part of the 2.5 hours coming from? So when we talk about cardio, we need to pay attention to training for cardio. And when you look at needing to do 2.5 hours a week, what that means is that sometimes you're not going to be able to go for a run. You need to get it done in your garage gym. Does that mean you add an elliptical? Does that mean you add a rower? Does that mean that you add a treadmill or something like that? We'll talk a little bit more of that as the episode goes on. But the minimum effective dose for area 1 that we all need to be training for as we get older is cardio at least 150 minutes a week. The next one is one that most of us do love. We need to be doing strength training. And strength training needs to be done at least 2 times a week. Typically, I recommend to folks who are in their 40s and older 2 to 3 times a week of strength training. Now, this is different than size or hypertrophy training. Strength training means that you are using heavy weights, lower reps, and you're really getting close to failure. You're really stressing the overall strength of your body. These are things like heavy carries, deadlifts, squats, things like that. And we talked a little bit about those exercises in the last episode. So while I did talk about not doing as many of them, these are still things that are going to be important to do a couple times a week. We really want to work on our strength a couple times a week. We also want to work on hypertrophy a couple times a week. So strength and hypertrophy are different. Strength is how much strength you have. Your central nervous system is involved in that. The strength of your connective tissue is involved in that. Technique is involved in that. Whereas you can improve strength without improving size, and you can improve size without improving strength. They're really 2 separate categories. Strength is important for obvious reasons. The stronger we are, the more we're going to maintain that strength as we age. Size is important as well, not just for how we look, although that's really nice. It's nice to look like you work out. However, muscle mass becomes more and more important as we age, because it turns out that if you fall and break your hip, which at 54 I'm not worried about, but at 74 I might be worried about, it's been shown that the more muscle someone goes into the hospital with, the more of a chance they have of being alive at the end of that hospital stay. And I hate to put it that way, but it's not just, oh, recovering well. It's that too. It's being able to walk again, but it's also just living through that incident. Falls kill old people at an alarming rate. I don't want to die because I tripped over a curb, right? So having muscle size is important. The more muscle we have. Now, there's something called age-related sarcopenia. It's turning out to not be all that big of a thing. So it used to be thought that as you get older, you just lose a certain percentage of your muscle, 3 to 5% of your muscle every year past a certain age. Turns out It's not really true. What it turns out is that when they were looking at people who lost muscle as they aged, it was because those older people stopped training. They stopped being active. So your body, as an adaptation machine, went, dude's not doing anything that requires this muscle. Let's get rid of it, right? Because muscle is an expensive tissue to support metabolically. And if you're not constantly telling your body that you need it, your body's going to get rid of it. So it just turns out that it wasn't that you lose muscle because you get older. You lose muscle because you get less active as you get older. And all 6 of these things that we talk about that we need to train for are the same. Your body is like, oh, you're not going to do cardio? Yeah. Since we don't need to walk a mile or run a mile, then I'm just going to take away that ability, because again, it's expensive metabolically to keep those abilities up. So muscle size, we want to train 2 times a week per muscle at moderate intensity. So muscle size doesn't require heavy loads. It requires medium to lighter loads at higher reps, right? At kind of a moderate intensity. So far we've got 150 minutes of cardio a week. We've got strength training twice a week. We've got hypertrophy training twice a week. The next one is conditioning. So conditioning, we'll talk more about later and how it's different than cardio, but conditioning is not cardio. Conditioning is more of your fast bouts that get you out of breath. Sprints, hill sprints, jump rope, heavy bag, stuff like that. Sprinting on your bicycle, whatever it happens to be. But 20 minutes of that a week is all you need. So that's going to directly correlate to what's called your VO2 max. That's basically how efficient your body is at using the oxygen that you breathe in. The higher your VO2 max, the better off you are. And I'm going to talk about some studies in a little bit here that are really eye-opening about how important VO2 max is as you get older. It's a really good indicator for whether or not you're going to die in the next 10 years. So kind of important to address. The good news is that unlike cardio, where you need to do 2.5 hours a week, 20 minutes a week is all you need to worry about to work on your conditioning. The next one I talked about in the last episode a little bit, that's mobility. That's your ability to actually move your body through space. Mobility becomes more important as we age, and it's something, again, that goes away quickly. For those of you who have worked at a desk most of your life and then gone to try and actually, touch your toes or do something you haven't done in a while, you realize that your mobility just goes away. You get tight, you get stiff, your muscles shorten, they get tight, but it becomes harder and harder. So we should be working on our mobility about 45 minutes a week. Now you can do that on a Sunday afternoon, right? That's when I do my mobility work. I typically do it once a week. However, a lot of people like to do a few minutes a day in the morning. I know that I do some stretches every morning as well. That really helps me get started in my day, especially the older I get, the more important those morning stretching sessions are. But mobility is important, and we want to be able to work on that 45 minutes a week. And the last one is one that a lot of people don't think about, but that's athleticism. That's the ability to move your body quickly and agilely through space. It's the ability to, if you see your kid falling down the stairs, to run over and catch the kid before they crack their head on the ground. Functional stuff like that that's important, but it goes away quickly. If your body's like, hey, he hasn't played basketball in like 6 years, so we probably don't need to play basketball anymore. And athleticism is important. Also, working on athleticism really helps with things like tendon strength. So what happens a lot of times with people who are older is they're like, I haven't played basketball in 6 months. I'm going to go play a pickup game of basketball. And they blow their Achilles out, which is a brutally long recovery time. It is a brutally painful injury. And it really severely impacts your ability to train the other 5 areas that I just talked about. So we want to be working on athleticism once a week. And like conditioning, you don't need to do it a lot. 30 minutes a week is plenty. You can definitely do more than that. But that's another thing that we need to integrate into our programming and in what we do in our garage gyms. So why did I go over those 6 things? So I think the best way to explain why I went over those 6 things and then how they integrate into what your gym looks like is to give you a couple of examples of people who haven't trained those 6 things on a regular basis. So one of the YouTube channels I enjoy watching a lot is a channel called the Renaissance Periodization Channel. There's a guy named Mike Israetel, or Dr. Mike Israetel, who is a roided up bodybuilder. That's self-admitted. He's very open about it, but he has always been concerned about size. Relatively short guy. I'm not sure if that has something to do with it, but big, jacked, strong bodybuilder, focused on bodybuilding, insanely knowledgeable about hypertrophy, that one of those 6 areas, right? And you can tell that all he's done is hypertrophy at the expense of everything else. So a fun one, if you like Dr. Mike and you like that channel, a fun one to watch is he recently did an episode with a bunch of special teams operators from the military who have a company who just trains special operators on physical fitness. And they have these tests in different areas. So the whole episode is him doing these tests. It was eye-opening, guys, to watch him, who a lot of people look up to as healthy and in shape, right? Like he's jacked, he's big, he's healthy, he's in shape, and he talks about health and fitness online. And in reality, he is in terrible shape. Watching him try to broad jump was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, but also one of the scariest things. If you can't broad jump more than 8 inches, there's a problem. He worked up to more than that in this episode, but it was rough. Watching him run was rough. Like, I was waiting for him to blow out an Achilles as he was running. Like, it was eye-opening that here is somebody that a lot of people in the world look to for what they should be doing in their home gyms, right? And again, great exercises, great exercise variations, great focus on how to build as much muscle as you can without doing a ton of tons of good information on this channel. But it all applies to hypertrophy only. And watching this episode with Dr. Mike, showing that that's all he's good at. In fact, I think in there he even said he hadn't deadlifted in 6 or 8 years, because deadlifting has nothing to do with hypertrophy, right? That has to do with strength. He doesn't care about strength. He only cares about hypertrophy. So he had trouble even picking up a minimal amount of weight off the ground. So very eye-opening to what happens when you only train in one area. Now, let's talk about that delta I talked about between younger and older people. Well, what's going to happen to Dr. Mike over time? While he might have an 8-inch broad jump right now, is he even going to be able to jump at all in 10 years? Is he going to be able to run at all in 10 years? Like, is he going to be stuck in a chair with his arms out to his side and that's all he'll be able to do? And I think it's important to, while it's fun to look at that channel and it's fun to watch that for training tips, it's important to also realize that we shouldn't just be doing that in our gym. I think a lot of people, that channel's got millions of subscribers, I'm one of them, focus just on that. So focusing just on hypertrophy causes a lot of other issues. Let's take a look at somebody who you might know of who has worked on strength only. This guy's name is Dave Tate. Real famous powerlifter, owns Elite FTS, if you're familiar with that equipment company. Was part of Westside Barbell for the longest time. Again, one of the most well-known powerlifters in the world. Spent his entire life working on strength and strength alone. That's all he did. Now, a lot of these guys, when they're younger, they go, I know the price that I'm going to pay down the road, and I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to do that, but it's worth it. I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be big, I'm going to be able to do all this stuff, right? Well, Dave Tate right now is a great example of actually somebody who's experiencing that. And it's one thing, like I used to be a smoker, and my smart aleck answer was like, I'm going to lose 10 years of my life, but it's the last 10. It's the crappy 10. It's the one where I'm in a diaper and a wheelchair. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say that when that 10 years is really far down the road. And that's what happens to a lot of people who work just on strength or just on hypertrophy, or they're juicing themselves to the tits with steroids right now when they're 25 years old. And they're like, oh, I'm good now. Yeah, you're not going to be good in 20 years. And when you get to 40, 50, and 60, focusing only on one of these 6 areas of training or 2 of these 6 areas of training, what happens is those consequences are a lot closer than they were when we were younger. And Dave Tate's a great example of somebody who's experiencing those consequences right now. He's in constant pain. He has trouble moving. He has horrible mobility. It's just been a detriment. And I've heard him in interviews talk about he wishes that he hadn't done some of the things that he did when he was younger, because the price that he's paying, it's just something you can't even imagine until you go through it. And once you're in it, you're like, I wish I could go back and take a lot of this stuff back. So there's a couple of examples of why I'm focusing on these 6 areas of training that you want to do in your home gym. Because when you neglect them, the consequences as you get older are really not good. And that's something that I'm facing right now, and one of the reasons why I'm starting this other channel, because I had to take a step back and go, am I objectively in good shape? So the reason I did this is because I was at the park with my dogs. A couple things happened. And I used to trail run and things like that. And my dog, the park we go to isn't like AstroTurf on the corner. It's a huge dog exercise area. There's woods, there's hills, there's water. It's like 2 miles all the way around. And my dogs like to climb logs and trees and things like that and chase squirrels. And I like to go up in there with them. And I was up on a log, probably, 2 feet off the ground, 2.5 feet off the ground. And I jumped down. And I hit the ground. And I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. Like, it hurt. There was no spring in my step. My back hurt. My knees hurt. My ankles hurt. Like, I hit the ground like literally like a sack of wet potatoes. There's no elasticity in my body at all right now. And it was really eye-opening for somebody who was able to run and jump and do things like that no problem, really even not too long ago. That was really, really eye-opening. Another one was I was at a picnic recently, and a bunch of the adults, beer in one hand, mitt in the other hand, and we were pitching to the kids and we were letting them hit into the outfield. And then the way that works well is there's a bunch of us out there to catch the balls or get the balls and throw them back to the pitcher so that the kids could have fun batting, because as a kid you don't want to go play outfield, right? I'm happy to stand out in the outfield with a beer and catch the fly balls. Well, the first fly ball that came near me but not to me, and I went to run to go catch it, I was literally unable to run to go catch it. I kind of did this like weird like shuffle thing where I had to, if it was recorded, I'm guessing that I looked like I was about 97, 98 years old. And it's not until we ask our bodies to do those things, jump down off of a log, jump down out of the bed of a pickup truck, again, grab your kid because they're falling down the stairs, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, like I can't do the things that I used to do. So how bad of a shape am I? Because I have a YouTube channel on home gyms. Like, aren't I supposed to be in shape? I lift every day. Like, I can hit pretty decent numbers as far as what my expectations are for myself as far as lifting goes. So aren't I in good shape? And in comparison to other 54-year-olds, I'm in pretty good shape. In comparison to where I need to be to not fall and die when I'm 75, I am way, way, way far off from where I need to be. Right now, I'm carrying around an extra 35, 40 pounds of weight. Because, you know, when you're training just for size and strength, you got to eat, right? Like, you should eat a lot. And while we're bulking, we might as well eat like an idiot. Like, I'm an idiot. I'm dumb and stubborn. Those aren't two good things that go together. So I'm carrying around that extra weight, which causes all types of other problems. It didn't help when I jumped down off that log that I'm carrying that extra weight. It didn't help that when I went to run for a foul ball that I was carrying that extra weight. That affects me in a negative way. So I went, okay, well, I need some objective measurements. So I went and got a DEXA scan, and I find out that I'm 25, 27% body fat. A solid 10% more than I should be, just for health reasons, just for aging well reasons, just for cardiovascular reasons, just for cholesterol reasons, right? There's a lot of reasons I shouldn't be carrying that extra weight around with me, especially since some of it, as you get older, collects around your organs, which is called visceral fat, which causes liver problems. It's called fatty liver disease. A lot of adults have that. Like, they don't look like they have a lot, but they've got the big distended belly, and that's because all of their fat is around their organs. Well, I'm starting to grow that. That's a problem. I did a VO2 Max test, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But VO2 Max test was like, hey, dude, you are in trouble, right? Like, by the way, that test is so miserable. I recommend that you do one, but I'm just going to give you a heads up that it's a miserable test. So I'm going to put a link down below to where I went here. I'm in Illinois. I went to a really cool place that I think did a great job. They did a resting metabolic rate test. They did a VO2 max test, and they did the DEXA scan all in one place. Really cool people. I forget even what the name of it is, but again, I'll put a link down below. I also worked out with them. I'm not affiliated. I don't make anything off of it, but they did give me a coupon code, so you get like $60 off a DEXA scan, I believe. So if you're in my area of the woods, I think I went to Libertyville. It's in Libertyville, Illinois, if you know where that is. But I'll put a link down below for that for you guys, so you can go get this stuff tested yourself. But in the end, I don't want to end up like Dave Tate. I don't want to end up like Mike Israetel and be one-dimensional and not be able to be a functional human being as I get older. And both of those guys are going to have an awful hard time when they get older. And I just don't want to be that way. And I want to help you guys not be that way too. So with all that said, let's talk about how that relates to you and your gym and what you do in your gym and how you build your gym. And the first one is there's a saying that, there's just a guy who, I forget, I think he was one of the guys who tried to kill Trump, represented himself in court, and they trotted out this saying that people say, which is, he who acts as his own lawyer has a fool for a client. And I'm going to say the same thing about people who train. He who trains himself as a client has a fool for a client. You need to be working a program by somebody else, that's written by somebody else, or you're not going to be getting the results you need to get. You're not going to be doing the things that you need to be doing. Even Michael Jordan, who was the greatest basketball player to ever play the game, don't care what you say in the comments, Michael Jordan, who was the greatest basketball player to ever play the game, had a coach. Tiger Woods had a coach. They wouldn't have been where they were if they didn't have coaches. Now, if there were two athletes in the world who should know what to do when they practice and train, it's those two. And they still had coaches. So you and I, who are nowhere near that level of athlete, should have coaches. Especially if I went through those 6 things and you're like, I didn't know I should be working on those 6 things. Like when you work a good quality program that addresses those 6 areas, all you got to do is come into your gym and do those things, right? It makes it super simple. Now, I was listening to a podcast recently, I forget who it was, and they were saying, hey, would you rather in your garage gym, would you rather work a program, or would you rather just go in and do your own thing? And the person was like, oh, I'd rather do my own thing. Like if I had to do a program, I just wouldn't do it because I won't have any fun and things like that. And while I understand that, and while I love to do that, and while my gym is my happy place, and sometimes I come in here and just do a couple of things just for fun, when we're talking about me fixing my VO2 max, when we're talking about fixing range of motion, we're talking about fixing athleticism, we're talking about losing weight, we're talking about effectively building strength and muscle, we have to be working a smartly, intelligently designed program, period, end of story. So there's a guy named Dave Ramsey, who you may know of. He's a financial planner and got a lot of pithy statements that, he says that sound good. And some of them actually are good, and this is one of them. And I always think of this. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Children do what feels good. And I think that as much as we look at our garage gyms as a playground and a place to go be kids and a place to have fun and a place to play, that there comes a point in our lives where they need to transition a little bit from us being children when we're in our gyms to us being adults in our gyms. And we need to have a plan and follow it. Like we need to devise a plan and follow it. The best way to do that is to have a program written by somebody else who knows what they're doing. The next best way to do that is to educate yourself and program for yourself like you would program for somebody that you care about. And one of the things I realize that I've been horrible at is, while I've helped a lot of people in my exact situation get out of my exact situation, I haven't helped myself do that because I just want to come into the gym and do what I want to do. Or I like working programs, but I just want to do like a bodybuilding program, or I want to do a powerlifting program, or I want to do like, gee, I wish my shoulders were bigger program type of a deal, right? So I haven't been doing the programs that I know I should be doing. And that's the biggest issue with programming for yourself in your home gym, is we tend to not do the things that we need to do. If we don't like athleticism training, we tend to skip that part. If we don't like conditioning, we tend to skip that part. When I was at Home Gym Con, not this year, but last year, there was a guy walking around with a shirt, and everybody's seen this shirt. It says "Cardio's for Pussies" on the front of it. That sounds fun. It's funny. Haha, very funny. Yeah, that's swell. Cardio's for people who want to live past 60. So let's just correct that shirt real quick. When we're a kid, that shirt's funny. When we're an adult, not as much, right? It's still kind of funny. But I get the joke, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about, that we need to integrate all these things. And the issue is when you look at those 6 areas and you start going, okay, well, 2.5 hours of cardio, 20 minutes of conditioning, 30 minutes of athleticism, 2 days with muscle. How am I going to do all that? Well, how you're going to do all that is you're going to either educate yourself on how to program for yourself to incorporate all those things, or you're going to work a program by somebody who understands that those are the things that we need to work as we get older. And this is one of the areas where I have issues with some programming. Some programming, like the RP Hypertrophy app from that RP channel, it just focuses on hypertrophy. That's it. And that's great if you're 25. It's not great when you're 55. Things like the Athlete X programs. The Athlete X programs are actually really, really good if what you're concerned with is strength and hypertrophy. They're very good. I don't like how many supplements he tries to sell you along the way. I think he's definitely more of a marketing guy. I think his YouTube channel is awesome. The Athlete X YouTube channel is great. But again, very little focus, although he's been focusing more and more on those 6 categories lately, but for the bulk of the life of that channel and for the programs, which I've worked almost all of them, they're really focused on just strength and hypertrophy, right? Because looking good sells. So you've got to weed through a lot of those programs to get to somebody who knows what they're talking about. This is one of the reasons why I like the Mind Pump guys. MAPS 40 Plus, I think, is a good program. The MAPS 40 Plus program by the guys over at Mind Pump do a great job of, they integrate stress relief, they integrate sleep, they integrate wellness, they integrate healthy habits outside of the gym, they integrate recovery, they integrate mobility, they integrate strength, they integrate hypertrophy. Like, they integrate all of those things into one program so that you don't have to think about, what do I need to do today? And well, I'm only at an hour and a half of cardio, so do I need to get to do, like, all of that stuff is integrated. So if you're going to do somebody else's program, then look for something like that. That's going to integrate. Another guy that I like a lot, that I talk about a lot here on the podcast, is Dr. John Russin. His functional power training. If you want to get big, strong, and jacked, but also work on your cardio, also work on your conditioning, also work on your athleticism, also work on your recovery, just get that program. It's like $100, $125, and it will have all of those things in those proportions already in that program. Now, if you don't want to buy a program and you don't want to get a program, John Russin is coming out with a book. I'm recording this on October 1st, 2025. His book will be out. It's called Pain-Free Performance. His book will be out. I'll put a link down below. It'll be out later this month sometime. And he's going to walk you through how to approach your programming, how to approach what you do in your gym, and it will incorporate all of that stuff. So if you want to just learn it yourself and program for yourself, and then that gives you some flexibility to pick and choose exercises that you like, pick and choose things that fit your garage gym and the equipment that you have. But that's a big part of us aging well and training well and really being in good health and in good shape and having good quality of life as we get older. So it's one thing, and I'm going to spend some time now talking about actually building your gym out to match this, but I thought it was important to spend the first half of the podcast talking about that framework, because that framework, everything I just talked about, should inform what you put in your gym. It should inform how you build your gym. It should inform you walking into your gym and going, that's not the right machine for me. I should sell it and I should buy this other machine because that's better for what my goals are. That should inform, maybe I need one less weightlifting machine and I need to get a treadmill back in here. I need to get a rower back in here. I need to get an elliptical back in here, because those things are going to be important. So that's why I spent so much time talking about kind of that framework, the 6 areas that we want to train for, and why programming is so important. Because if you get that stuff down, if you really commit to training to those 6 things, if you really commit to the fact that, look, adults devise a plan and follow it. And that means that I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I've always made light of the fact that I don't eat vegetables. I don't like vegetables. I'm single. I don't like cooking vegetables. I don't like buying vegetables. I buy them and they sit in the fridge till they go bad. And at some point, a buddy of mine goes, dude, you're an adult. Eat vegetables. And that hit me right here. Like, you're right. I'm acting like a child. It feels good not to eat my vegetables. So I got to eat vegetables, right? Like, it's just something I have to do as an adult. And when we're training in our gym, we have got to work a program that addresses those 6 areas, or we're going to wake up when we're 70 and go, oh no, right? We're not going to be able to move. We're not going to be able to run. We're not going to be able to be self-sufficient. So that's why I spent so much time going over that stuff in the beginning of this podcast. So let's talk about some things in our gyms, right? Finally get to actually stuff for our gyms, and stuff that old people need in our gyms. Stuff us old farts need to have. We need to have some lacrosse balls or some other mobility tools. We need to have some foam rollers. We need to have some resistance bands. We need to have some stuff like that. And we need to use them in a proper warm-up. So if you have those things, so if you get those, you get like some type of a medicine ball, you'll have everything you need to warm up properly. Now I'm going to reference that Renaissance periodization channel. So Mike Israel talks a lot about all you need to do to warm up is to just do a couple of ramp sets or warm up sets, and then you just jump in and that's all you need to do. And when you're young and when you're on steroids and when you're just training for hypertrophy, that is correct. When you're not young and when you're not on steroids and when you're training for those 6 areas, that is absolutely not correct. You need to warm up in a much more smart manner. Running 15 minutes on the treadmill is not warming up. So what I'm going to recommend you do is going to give you some exposure to that John Russin guy. I'm going to put a link down below. I can't be affiliated. He doesn't have an affiliated program. I don't make $1 if you go to this stuff. And what I'm going to recommend is free. I'm going to put a link to his 6-phase dynamic warm-up process. I have his certification. 75% of his certification is on this warm-up process. It's 10 minutes. It's going to keep you resistant to injury. I'd like to say injury-free because when I keep up with this, I don't get injured. It's going to address imbalances. It's going to address deficiencies. It's going to address weak points. It's going to prepare your body specifically for the movements you're doing that day in the gym, whether it's power, whether it's hypertrophy, whether it's athleticism, whatever it is. And like I said, it's going to be short, sweet, to the point. In order to do it, though, you're going to need 2 things. You're going to need the program. Again, it's free. And number 2, you're going to need some resistance bands. You're going to need some type of like a medicine ball or slam ball or something like that. You're going to need a foam roller. Those are the things that you're going to need. So if you don't have those in your gym, you need them even outside of this program, but you're going to need them for this program. But it's really important that we set up our gym not just for coming in and doing a couple of warm-up sets and then lifting. At some point in your life, you need to devote time to a smart, intelligently programmed warm-up, and there isn't a better one out there than this. Once you see it, and the link that I'm going to send you to actually explains why each part is important. This is the warm-up that I use for myself. This is the warm-up that I use for all of my clients. I do not use any other form of warm-up. Any program that I buy and work, I use this warm-up. I do not use the warm-ups that come with it. I completely ignore Dr. Mike's advice to just only do ramp-up sets. Now, ramp sets are important. Those are important things. I'm not saying don't do those. I'm just saying that those aren't your warm-up. So as far as adding stuff to your gym, those tools are kind of important because you got to warm up. Next, I want to touch on the difference between cardio and conditioning. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the 2 things we need to spend time on is 2.5 hours of cardio and then 20 minutes of conditioning. So cardio is low intensity walking, right? Like going outside, now, there's been this stupid thing online where it's been a while now, but somebody on a podcast is like, walking is not exercise. And I get what they were saying, like going out and strolling at the slowest possible pace that's not exercise, right? When we say go out and walk, we mean walk, like get up, like late for a plane walk. Maybe not quite that fast, but close, right? But that's cardio, right? Riding your bike for 2.5 hours across the week. Going for a jog for 2.5 hours in total time across the week. Rowing for longer periods of time. Not killing yourself, but doing that's cardio. Conditioning is when you are exhausting all of the oxygen. So cardio is what's called aerobic conditioning. You're never going hard enough to where you're out of breath. You've always got enough oxygen coming in to fuel your muscles and to fuel the Krebs cycle that adds energy to your muscles. I don't want to get too technical with it. Just let's say that if your body has enough oxygen to work, then you're never going to run out of breath. You're never going to be like, I can't, I'm going to die, right? Cardio is that. Conditioning is, I'm going to die. That's what conditioning is. Conditioning is hard bouts of sprints and hill sprints and sprints on your bike and sprints on the rower and interval training and Tabatas, if you know what those are, and heavy kettlebell swings. Heavy kettlebell swings are awesome conditioning, but you don't need to do that a lot. What that's doing is it's getting you up to your max heart rate, which is basically 220 minus your age, I believe is what it is, but right around there for 20 minutes a week. Right? And you just do it in short bouts. This is when your body doesn't have oxygen to work with, right? This is when your body has to switch over to using lactate and other chemicals in your body to generate energy. And so you want to train both of those energy systems are different. So the tools that you use don't have to be different. So when we're building out our gyms, and I kind of just said it, you can use a rower for cardio and for conditioning. You can use a treadmill for cardio and for conditioning. I'll be getting most likely the new Rep Fitness curved manual treadmill because it works great as a sled. So you can do sled work, which is also great conditioning, but I can also use it to walk on, which is the cardio portion. So when you're looking at putting something in your gym, you can do one thing that does both, or you can do things that a different thing for each one. I'm going to give you a couple examples of what I like doing to maybe give you some ideas that are different. But when you're building out your gym or you're looking at your gym build out, you want to look around and go, do I have something in my gym to do both cardio and conditioning? Do not rely on, unless you live in San Diego, where it's 75 degrees and sunny every day, you know for a fact you can get outside. Most of us are going to have to do some stuff inside now and again. So having something in your gym to do that's going to be important. As we get older, I have two favorite things for cardio: incline walking or jump rope. Remember I said I jumped off of a log and felt like a sack of potatoes? Jump rope fixes that. Jump rope helps bring the springiness back into your step. It helps kind of loosen things up. It helps get your lymph flowing through your lymphatic system. It does a lot of really, really good things. But for me, the reason I like for older clients and for myself to jump rope is it does a whole lot of things for you outside of cardio. Number one, once you get decent at it, you can do it for a decent amount of time. So getting in 15, 20 minutes in a day, half hour a day, 5 days a week, that's one option for you. It's kind of fun. It's kind of different. It also is going to help condition things like your Achilles tendon so that it's stronger, so that you don't blow out an Achilles and have an injury down the road. There's just a lot of fun things about jump roping. The other one is incline walking. Incline walking is really good for your joints, really good for your knees. It burns a lot of calories actually, so if you're looking to lose some weight, that's one of the better ways to burn off some calories for you. And then also, it's an easy one you can do. So while jump rope isn't for everybody, if you like it, you really like it. If you don't like it, you hate it. So again, don't do things you hate. I just want to give you some examples of things that I like to prescribe for people. As far as conditioning goes, there's two that I really, really, really enjoy. And I think having fun with this is the key to doing conditioning. Heavy bag is one of them. There is just nothing better than putting on a pair of gloves, taping up your hands, and just beating the snot out of a heavy bag for 20 minutes. I'm telling you right now, if you can do, like I like to do 10 3-minute rounds. So I'll set a timer and then go all out for 3 minutes, which is a lot harder than it sounds. And then take like a 1 to 2 minute break and then go all out for 3 minutes. And you can do shorter rounds, like you can do a minute on, a minute off, but do 20 minutes total of active. If you're just getting into it, don't start with that. Ease into it, but boy, is it fun. It also sends a muscle building signal to most of the front of your body. So if you're trying to grow your chest, you're trying to grow your shoulders, you're trying to grow your triceps, it actually helps muscle growth a little bit. So I like the added benefit, but it's just really fun. It's different, it's enjoyable. And again, if you live a stressful life, it is a great stress reliever. So I like that a lot. Another one I mentioned is heavy kettlebell swings. Heavy kettlebell swings are not only great for my back, because I've had back problems, great for your posterior chain strength, but boy, if you're doing them right, you're not doing weird straight arm front raise things, and you're actually doing them correctly, they're a heck of a conditioning workout and will gas you before you know it. So pick up a 100-pound kettlebell, an 80-pound kettlebell. I've got the big gorilla from On It. This is the one I like to do because I like to yell at the gorilla when I get tired, but something like that. So there's a couple of examples of cardio and conditioning and tools that you can put in your gym to do those things that aren't your normal. I think a lot of people default to, well, I guess it's an elliptical, a bike, or a treadmill. And you could definitely use those, and if you enjoy those and you'll use them. But just as an example, if you put a little bit of thought in, and you understand the point of both of those things, you can pick tools that you actually like and that you enjoy. And when you like and enjoy them, you will be consistent with them. Now, there's also other alternatives. So if you can go outside, so again, those are options for in your gym. I want to give you a couple of things that I do on a regular basis. So I would much rather go outside and do both of these things. So for me, I enjoy hiking. So what you can do is, instead of just walking down the sidewalk in your neighborhood, that's all you got time to do, that's great. But try and find some off the beaten path type places to go hiking. My dog park where I take my dogs is great. It's 2 miles all the way around. Nothing is paved, so it's all uneven ground. There's hills, there's uphill, there's downhill. That really, really does a lot to add to the cardio you're already doing and make it more effective. If you're gonna do 2.5 hours or something a week, you might as well make it as effective at 2.5 hours as you can, and that's one way to do that. And then another one, which is going to be an oddball one for most of you. I've played competitive disc golf for over 20 years. It's my favorite sport. I love disc golf. For those of you who don't understand what I'm saying, frisbee golf is another way to put it. But I play what's called speed golf. So I'll take just one disc. I'll go to my course. I'll throw the disc. I will sprint to the disc. I'll throw my next shot. I'll sprint to the next shot. I'll put it in the basket, and I will walk to the next tee. And then I will repeat that for 18 holes. It is fun. It's enjoyable. I'm not keeping track on time. I'm not like, oh, I've got to keep doing it. It's just you try and go. And what you do is you keep track of your score and you keep track of your total time. And then you just put those together and you try and bring that number down over time. It's really, really enjoyable. Also, if you play regular golf with sticks and balls, there's actually a thing called speed golf where they take just a few clubs, and there's courses by me which actually allow that. So you can do that as well, but you can get creative and get your conditioning in and have fun and enjoy it. And that's one of the keys to, one of the things we talk about as we're doing this as adults is we are past the time when we are younger of, oh, I need to do this for a while I fix this problem and then I can go back to the way that it was. The way that we build our gym and the way that we train in our gym is how we're gonna train, like for the duration, right? Until we literally can't do it anymore. So you might as well pick things that you like and not air bikes. So I say that because I know more people who have bought air bikes because they're the most effective at burning calories, but they're also the most miserable. And they use them for a while. And I know that there's those of you out there who like your air bikes, and that's awesome. If you like it, keep using it. But pick things that you like first and worry about how effective they are second. And that's how I end up going hiking a lot and playing speed disc golf a lot. And here's where we need just a little bit of honesty and an honest look at ourselves and what we do and don't like to do. So as much as it's important to find cardio and conditioning methods that you enjoy, to find strength training methods that you enjoy, odds are that if you're watching this, there are very few of you who are going to like all of that stuff. Some of you love cardio and hate strength training. Some of you love strength training and hate conditioning. Some of you love conditioning but hate cardio. It's very rare that I find somebody, a client or otherwise, who likes all of it, right? So not only is it important that we find methods that we enjoy. If speed golf does it for you and that's what gets you out to conditioning, that's awesome. And this is where I think it's important that we understand the why of what we're doing. And when we look at strength training and building muscle, I talked about, the more muscle you have as you get older, the more likely you are to be able to live on your own and not have to live in assisted living. Like, to me, that's a really important why. That is all the motivation I need to continue to strength train. Watching older people who fall and end up invalids and can't get up or actually die because they broke their hip, to me, that's enough of a why. For me, the why for conditioning has been the hardest one to get my head around. So I'm kind of share with you what finally made that click. Because of all the things that we've talked about, I actually enjoy going hiking. I don't like doing it all the time, but it's not something I have to force myself to do. I'm pretty good about doing it. I love strength training, both for size and strength. So nothing I need to convince myself to do. I absolutely hate conditioning. I absolutely hate it. I hate hill sprints. While kettlebell swings work really well, that's great. While hitting the heavy bag is really fun when I'm stressed out. Like, to do it consistently all the time was something I've had a really hard time getting my head around actually committing to do it in full buy-in. And the VO2 Max test that I did is the thing that really drove it home that, hey, Tim, you need to get this into your training all the time without fail. You cannot skip. Most people skip leg days. I skip conditioning days. Like, I don't skip leg days, but I absolutely will skip conditioning day all the time because I just would rather not do it. Or I convince myself that something else is just as good, right? Like, oh, I'll just do some heavy deadlifts instead, right? Like, I'm out of breath at that. So I want to talk about VO2 Max for a second and why it's important, especially as we get older, because I think it will help a lot of you hopefully finally commit to adding some of those tools. Whether you hang a heavy bag in your garage, whether you buy a heavy kettlebell, whether you decide to go start doing hill sprints, which is a great way to go, whatever it happens to be, here's why. So I went and had this VO2 Max test done recently. And I'll give you some numbers, although the scale was kind of meaningless to me, but just to give you an idea. My VO2 Max was 32.9. So to give you an idea of where that falls, I am in the fair category. I'm not poor or bad. I'm one above bad at fair. I'm not very far above bad, but I'm in fair. So at 32.9, good is 36 to 41. Excellent is 41 to 45. Superior is 45. And then a lot of people that I really respect, doctors that I really respect, say that really you should be able to get over 50 and stay over 50 most of your life. What those actual numbers mean are a bunch of mumbo jumbo. In the end, let's just say that I'm pretty far away from where I need to be. So why is that important? Here's where my commitment to never skip conditioning again comes in. So I was looking at Dr. Peter Attia, wrote a great book called Outlive. I highly recommend it if you're into health and fitness and wellness. I'll put a link down below. It's a great book, but I really respect him. People pay him 6 figures a year to be their personal physician. Crazy, right? People pay that much a year just to have a personal doctor. So he talks a lot about these people and what their goals are and where they should be. And he also spends a lot of time talking to them about why that's important. So he compiled a ton of data on VO2 max and why it's important and what it actually means to you in the real world. And this is what has made me commit to my conditioning day every week from here on out. And that is that when you go from being low to being below average, you reduce your chance of dying by 50% in the next 10 years. For any reason, you have a 50% reduction in your chance of dying over the next 10 years if you just go from low to below average. Now, if you commit to going from below average, which I definitely am, to above average, you reduce your chance of mortality by 60 to 70%. Now, I don't know about you, but yes, I don't want to have to get help putting a bag in the overhead bin in the airplane. I don't want to have to make 2 trips from the car when I bring my groceries in because men only take 1 trip. Remember that. However, I really don't want to die. And whether that's cardiovascular disease, which is your number 1 killer, number 2 killer of people, your good VO2 max is an indicator of all kinds of health markers, whether it's cardiovascular health, whether it's helping you reduce your weight, whether it's whatever it happens to be. This is all-cause mortality reduction. So when we talk about making room in our home gyms for things that are going to be important, and we are an adult and we devise a plan and we follow it because we want to live well for the rest of our lives, conditioning's got to be a part of it. And that, to me, is why. I think that's really, really important, that it's something I don't see a lot of people doing. I see a lot of people, I need to lose weight, so I'm going to go run. We need to do the cardio and we need to do the conditioning. So I kind of wanted to share a little bit about kind of where I'm at for that. So hopefully if I can just get even one of you to start working on your VO2 max, again, I'll put a link down below of someplace. The place I want's a national chain, so you can go lots of places, but I'll put a link down below so that you can go get a test if you want to. I will tell you that it is miserable and it's going to suck, but it also might be eye-opening, because I'll tell you, if I would have guessed where I was going to be before I went in there, I would have guessed at least 2 levels higher than where I actually am. And sometimes that black and white measurement paired with black and white data like this is kind of eye-opening. Now let's touch on the last section real quick, and that's training for athleticism. This is the fun one. Go play pickup basketball. Go play volleyball. Go do something like that. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that if you're older and you haven't done those things, you've got a lot of work to do before you do it. You do not want to blow out your Achilles, and that will happen if you're like, I haven't done anything in 20 years, but I'm going to go to the Y and play basketball. Nope, don't do that. So work up to those things. But one of the reasons why we don't have to work on athleticism when we're kids is because we just naturally do those things. We had gym class, we played pickup basketball. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, we were constantly doing something. We were either going sledding in the wintertime and running up and down those hills to go get as many sled runs as we could. We were going skiing in the wintertime, which is another great activity. In the summertime, we were playing pickup basketball, we were playing pickup baseball, Little League baseball. We didn't do soccer when I was a kid because it's not a real sport. But anyway, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself, guys. I can't play soccer because I can't run that much. That's why I give it a hard time. It's like cross country with a ball, and I want no part of that sport. So I like to give you guys a hard time for it. But regardless, whatever your sport of choice is, when you were a kid, you played it a lot. as an adult, we have to be much more intentional. So training for athleticism could just be to working up to playing a sport. If you're not going to do that, if you can't do that, if that's not something you want to do, there are other ways to work on athleticism. And I'm going to give you 3 that I have here in the gym that I actually really enjoy. Number 1, kettlebells. Kettlebells are a great way, kettlebell flows especially, are a great way to work on your athleticism. There takes a lot of mobility, a lot of agility, a lot of coordination because it's a weighted movement. They're really, really fun. If you like it, you'll love it. A lot of people don't end up liking it. But check it out. If you haven't done that before, get yourself like a 30-pound kettlebell. That's all you need to start and to just start working on kettlebell flows. It's a skill which is fun for a lot of people. Like I like working on things that are skills because I'm going in and working on getting better at something. I'm not just mindlessly, that's one of the things I don't like about sprints is it's like I'm not trying to get better at sprinting. I'm just running fast for no reason. Nobody's even chasing me. It's dumb. But with kettlebells, I like doing that because it's a skill-based movement. So that's one thing that can work on your athleticism and really kind of be engaging and bring you back to do it on a regular basis. Again, athleticism, 20, 30 minutes a week, that's all you need to do. So it's not a huge commitment, but it's something that's fun. Another one that I think is fun, that I have a couple of things, I have some stuff by a company called OVR or Over. I've got their broad jump mat, and then I also have their vertical jump tester. I'll put links to those below. I also did a review on the vertical jump tester. That's really fun, and you don't need to spend a ton of time doing it, but working on jumping and improving your jump ability not only keeps you kind of healthier in a bunch of ways, but it really helps with that athleticism. Athleticism becomes important as you get older too, because keep in mind that falls, we've talked about it already, are one of the major causes of death or precursors to death in older people. The more athletic you are, the much more capable you are of preventing yourself from falling in the first place. So jump training actually does that quite a bit. So it's a fun thing to do. I'll check them out, OVR Performance, and they've got some cool stuff. They've also got a sprint measure now to like time things back and forth. Again, I don't like to run, so I'm not getting that one, but I do want to improve my vertical jump and my broad jump. And the last one I already mentioned, jump rope. Jump rope is a great way to combine some cardio, maybe some conditioning, as well as some athleticism. You can start doing some more than just plain jumping, single legs, double unders, things like that. Again, it's a skill you can work on. So I just wanted to throw those in at the end. Athleticism, kind of a general catch-all. I think that the general overarching rule is that you want to be doing something athletic a half hour a week. Again, whether that's going to play pickup basketball. As a golfer, golf's not athletic, guys. So it's not a sport. Bowling's not a sport. Darts isn't a sport. Pool's not a sport. So just because it's called a sport and can be technically defined as a sport, that doesn't count for this stuff. So we want athletic endeavors. Soccer, pickup football, flag football, kickball's a good one. So stuff like that, integrating something fun into your week that gets you out and moving athletically. Ground-based movements, whether you call it animal flow is another one to good look at for that. But just get moving like that once a week, and whether that means you put a device in your gym like the broad jump mat or the vertical jump tester, or whether that means you just start going out and getting active outside or going to the local YMCA or your local community center and doing something there, joining a co-ed volleyball league, something like that. Anything like that is going to qualify for that, and it doesn't always have to be in your gym. So there you go, guys. That's training for old farts. So between last episode and this episode, hopefully I gave you enough food for thought to not only start modifying your training so that you can train to live well. It's called healthspan, guys. We don't want to live a long time. We want to live well for a long time. We want to be capable as we get older. And having a home gym gives you guys a big advantage in that. It gives you a big leg up because you have the place to go do it. It's just a matter of, like I said, devising a plan and following it, doing those 6 areas of training, and then we spent a lot more time on gym build out on the first episode. But again, if you have any questions on things you can add to your gym, if you're looking at a tool out there, you're wondering if it's beneficial, if there's a better option, drop all that stuff in the comments below. I'm happy to help you guys out. This is what I do as a trainer. I really focus on training folks in not elderly, But as they get older and start to realize that there's this delta between a well-trained 50-year-old and a non-trained 50-year-old, and people would much rather be over here. So if you're trying to be over here, if you're trying to be self-sufficient as you get older, if you're trying to age well and do all the things that you need to not die in the next 10 years, let me know. So hopefully that helped out. As always, if you guys watched this long, I really appreciate you guys who watch all these episodes. Thank you so much. I'll let you know when that new channel starts. It shouldn't be too long. And until the next time, I'm Tim with GymCrafter.